Chapter 4 I Wish You Heaven. Kimura Akio, 2nd year, Class B. Part 3. Kamo-kun, do you think human existence is justified? Kamekshiro asked, out of the blue one day. Nope, I said instantly. I was getting used to her non-sequiturs. Dang, neither do I. We were lying next to each other on the bank of the river that ran along the road leading up to school. Since most of the students took the bus, people hardly ever walked along this road. It was already dark out, and we could see the stars above us. Humans just aren't that great. However much our civilization advances, we can't seem to do anything to make ourselves happier, I said, obviously trying to impress her with something profound. Yeah, maybe, she replied. She seemed kind of serious. Why do you ask? I just met this guy. But... You in love again? What about Tanaka? I asked, surprised. Yeah, I am. But let's put that aside for the moment, she said, sitting up. She gazed at the wavering reflection of the city lights on the moving water of the river. He's from outer space. She looked serious. She had to be joking, but she didn't seem to be waiting for me to laugh. So I took it as some sort of metaphor and just nodded. But I don't think he's from some other planet. It's like, in space, there's this big consciousness, and it sent him here to, test mankind or something. Kind of like the inspection robots that always show up in Hoshi Shinichi's short stories. But he's not a machine or anything. It's just that his body isn't something that exists on Earth. It can, turn into anything. So when he landed on Earth, he disguised himself as a human and tried to examine the world. But there were a few mistakes, and he didn't quite manage to pull off being human quite right. Huh? He evolved a little too much. He's got more power within him than any human will ever have in 1,000 years. No, in 10,000 years. Apparently, space is just so big that they couldn't match him up with Earth time just right. So his true nature came out ahead of time, and the government or some kind of big corporation got a hold of him. But the idiots thought he was just some sort of mutant, and they did all sorts of experiments on him and cloned him. But unlike him, that cloned copy turned into a brutal man-eater. I no longer had the foggiest idea what she was talking about. I elected to keep quiet until I could pick up the thread again. He wanted to communicate all this, but he couldn't. He was programmed in such a way that he couldn't talk to humans directly. It was so that he wouldn't reveal his true identity to anyone, which was fine. I mean, after all, he was sent here to test humans and see if they would be nice to him. He wasn't here to negotiate or make speeches or anything. He was just here to observe, so they named him Echoes, since all he can do is reflect back the words that people spoke to him. But the man-eater killed everyone in the research facility and escaped. Now it's off hiding inside of human society somewhere. But Echoes came after it, and he met me. What's he gonna do if he catches it? Fight it, I guess. If he doesn't, it'll just take over the world or something. But he's an alien. Why does he care what happens here? Yeah, true. Basically, he's just nice. That's it? Isn't it enough? Isn't niceness the best motivation that someone can have? She asked, looking at me kind of solemn. Half of this is just me reading between the lines. I think he's got some sort of other complicated reason too. You know, something about maintaining the balance of the planet. But if that was all, it's kind of sad. Don't you think? She whispered, pretty downcast. She looked on the verge of tears, which made me uncomfortable. I felt the kind of tightness in my chest that I thought I'd left behind in junior high. I cleared my throat to hide this feeling, and said deliberately rough, So, how the hell did this Echoes guy even explain all of this to you? I thought he couldn't talk. It was a stupid nitpick. So she said, "Aha, ha, ha. You're too smart. I can't fool you," and cackled. That's all? I asked. The story was a bit too detailed to be dismissed like this. Yep, I was just kidding. Stupid little fairy tale, Kamishiro said with an impish grin, stealing over the corners of her mouth. We sat in silence for a while. She was the first to break the silence. But if Echoes wins, he'll probably go back to his home in the stars. Sounds romantic to me. Kind of like the Tanabata festival. I wonder what he'll say about us humans. I don't suppose there's much chance of him saying, "Don't worry, they're a good species." Is there? Where is he now? Hiding at the school. Don't tell anyone. Don't worry, I won't. Stupid promise. Because of that stupid promise, I got myself suspended and had to lower my ambitions for college. But since I turned all my friends into enemies and spent the rest of my school isolated, I had nothing to do but study, and eventually, I used my grades to make up for the poor conduct report. The stars are so far away, Kamishiro said, gazing up at the night sky. They're farther away than our lives, I said. I'm not sure what her story really meant, but she managed to get the answer that she'd wanted out of me. As I told her, but if you open your heart to Echoes, then I'm sure he'll learn to like humanity. You think so? I want to think so. Because the story you told me leaves us no salvation. Yeah, I hope you're right, she said, turning towards me and smiling. But at the time, I didn't want her to smile. I wanted her to get angry with me for saying something so stupid. I tried to think of something even stupider to say, but instead, we headed back home. I walked off down the road to the station, and she went back towards the school, saying that she'd take the bus. That's the last time I ever saw her. She didn't come to school the next day, or the day after that. She never came again. Order up! 2 cups of American coffee appeared in front of Miyashita Toka and me. You can do better, honey. Miyashita picked up on the waitress's look of keen interest and cooled down a little. It's not like that. Ugh. Sorry. I shouldn't have slapped you. Still, she said in a hushed tone. Don't worry. I know. I'm an idiot. I really do think you need to let her go. She's... What was her name? Kamikshiro Naoko. Oh, right. I didn't know her very well. But I think if she really did like you, Akio, that she'd want you to move on now. That's why she didn't say anything when she left. Makes sense? That? That'd be nice. Truth is, I'm pretty sure she never thought twice about me. Eventually, Miyasha Toka let me go, forcibly exhorting me to cheer up. We parted at the door to the coffee shop. Take care. You know, you really ought to do something about that hero complex of yours. Gonna get you in trouble someday. You've got tests to study for. I guess, she said, with her head to one side. But still. Suit yourself, I said, turning to leave. It was then that she called after me. Kimura-kun. I looked back and nearly tripped over my feet. It was certainly Miyashita Toka standing there, but for some reason, I felt like I was looking at a completely different person. A boy. It was as if she transformed or something. What? Kamikshio Nako performed her duty admirably. You should perform your own duty and make her proud. That's the only thing you can do for her. She proclaimed this like she was giving some speech on a stage. Then she spun on her heel and was lost in the crowd. Huh? I stared after her, watching the crowd flow onward. When my bus reached the stop in front of Shinyo Academy, it was already past sunset, and there were no students in sight. Apparently, even the sports teams gave up on practice and called it a day once it got dark. This must be why none of our teams have ever so much as qualified for the national tournaments. It hadn't changed a bit since I was last there. The gates were closed. Outsiders had to identify themselves over an intercom to get in, so I passed right by them. I entered the school through a gap through the fences that Kamikshiro had shown me. The darkened school grounds were silent, like an abandoned building. The towering school building looked kind of like a giant looming tombstone. Until about a year before, I had actually come here every day. But now, I was a stranger. Not much that I can say that was good about my years in high school. But I felt a pain in my chest when I thought about how little connection that I had now to my past. I remember Kamikshiro and the abuse that I took after the incident like it was yesterday. But the rest of it was all far too long ago. Why did I come here? If I was looking for the source of the letter, this place wasn't going to be of any use. But this high school was the only remaining connection that I had with Kamikshiro. Someone else had moved into her apartment. There were no traces of her left. There was nowhere else for me to go. She just wasn't here. Yeah. Somewhere inside, I had wondered if Kamikshiro herself had sent the letter. But that was probably wrong. Even here in school, she wasn't around. The letter was nothing but a prank. Everything was over. It was all in the past. I looked up at the sky. It was cloudy, and I couldn't see the stars. And yet, I felt like I could see them, like I had when I used to lay with her on the riverbank. She had told me all her secrets, metaphorically. Told me. Not to Nakashiro. Not anyone else. And I never understood what she meant by it. Wasn't that enough? That's all the reason I needed to love her for the rest of my life. No matter how much I fell in love with some other girl, she will always live inside of me in the way that she was then. Impossible to understand. And more than a little crazy. Life is brief, young maiden, fall in love. I whispered a snatch of the gondola song that she always used to sing while I wandered around the school. I found myself in front of the gym. Suddenly, I wanted to see the storage room where the interloper had hidden himself. Their exact relationship remained a mystery, but it was the last known trace of her. I grabbed a flashlight from the emergency supplies and shone it around the gym. I had forgotten half of the features of the place. Guess I really wanted to forget all about high school. I found some kind of door, or cover, or something, down by the floor, near the main entrance. Figured that must be it, so I hunkered down and opened it. It was just an empty space. Iron pillars, concrete floors, bare ceiling. The foundation of the gym, I guess. Designed to absorb the impact of an earthquake. I'd been here 3 years, and never even known this was here. Guess this isn't it. I turned to leave, but something moved near my foot. There was a dry rustle. I shone the light at my feet. There was something black and dried. I thought it was a glove at first, maybe forgotten by a workman. But it was too thin for that. It wasn't meant to be put on over a hand. It was a hand. I stared at it in shock for a moment. Whoa! It was a mummified hand. What the hell is this? When my knees gave out, I fell on my ass. When Kamishiro had vanished, she hadn't been the only one. A number of other students had vanished, both before and after her. I'd never connected them before, but I could think of no other reason why a hand would be lying on the floor of the school. Maybe it was because I kicked it, or maybe it was the exposure to the outside air. Whichever the case, the hand crumbled away to dust before my very eyes. And within seconds, there was nothing left of it at all. What does it mean? What the hell happened here 2 years ago? But there was nothing to give me those answers. There was nothing for me to do but sit in the dark, shuddering in fear. Now go.